Today we're going to learn how to create some really funny motion blur in Adobe Photoshop. So without further ado, just get straight into it. It's a really easy tutorial for you guys today. Drag and drop the image that you're going to use into Adobe Photoshop, and I'm using this image from Wikipedia Creative Commons, which is an old lady on a mobility scooter, if I can remember the name of it. Now obviously you can tell that this picture is she's sat still, but it kind of looks as if she's in some motion. But what we're going to do is we're going to change this 1 mile an hour to about 95 miles an hour and make it look like she's going really fast. So to begin, press Ctrl and J to make a duplicate of the background, and then press P to select the pen tool. Now what you want to do is go around all of the edges of the area that you want to blur. So don't just make a selection of the inside, make a selection of the outside by going around the edges. So I'm going to make one selection of this side and then another selection of this side. Now if you're not too sure on how to use the pen tool, I will be showing a quick guide during the speed up process of me doing this, so you can either click on that or you can watch it through there, or I'm just going to show you the basics of what you need to do. So if you want to draw a straight line, just left click and then just left click again to draw another straight line, and then just go around and go down and make your way around like so. Now if you need to make a curve, just left click and hold, and that will make a little curve for you like so, and hold Alt and click the central point to get rid of the Bezier curves, and then you can just either draw a straight line or do curves again, depending on what you want to do. So I'm just going to fast forward this now really quickly, and you can learn along with me in that way, I guess. So now that we've made both of our selections, we want to select them together. So if you had to press Ctrl and click away with the pen tool to make a new selection, to highlight them all together, which is what we need to do, just press Ctrl and Shift with the pen tool selected, and then select one of the lines of one of your areas and then one of the other. So you'll know if they're selected if you've got these little squares in between the lines, should we say. So I've got everything selected. The next thing to do is right click with the pen tool and then choose Make Selection, and set the feather radius at about 0.2 pixels. We only want a really slight feather. We don't really want, something heavy that's going to create a heavy transition. So just hit OK with that, and now we've got the marching ants marching around and around on both of our selections. So what do we want to do next? We want to make a duplicate of this selection where the marching ants are going round. Press Ctrl and J to make a duplicate of the selection, not the layer, and you can see by turning off layer 1 in the background that you've now got just the background that you made with the pen tool. So turn those back on so we can see what we're working with, and go to Filter, Blur, and then select Motion Blur. Now I've done that on the wrong layer, my apologies. So on the top layer, Filter, Blur, and then Motion Blur. I need to stop messing around, start doing it properly. Okay, so I've changed the angle to about -12. What I've worked on from this is the angle of the road, so you can see that it's going in a general this direction, if you can see my mouse. So I just tried to line it up a little bit to make the motion of the blur go in that direction as well. I've set the distance to 80 pixels, which roughly will be about 80 kilometers per hour for the Americans out there, probably about 60 in the UK, I don't know, but we're working off kilometers per hour. So if you want to go 100, then set it to 100 pixels. If you want to go 1000 and completely destroy yourself and break the sound barrier, whatever you want to do, That's up to you, but for me 80 pixels works pretty good. Hit OK once you're finished, and that's starting to look a little bit better. Now I have left this section here just in the middle unblurred to show you how to mess around with difficult parts of the image that maybe you couldn't go around with the pen tool, or it was a little bit difficult for you. So I'm going to show you another method of how to mask that in and out. So make another duplicate of the background by pressing Ctrl and J. So we've got that at the bottom, and then on that layer go to Filter, Blur, and then select Motion Blur again, and set the radius, not the radius, the distance as exactly the same again, so 80 pixels for me. Then with the above image, so the whole blurred image, make a layer mask. So click the camera icon next to FX, and then press Ctrl and I to invert the layer mask and make it disappear. Now what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and bring in the subject a little bit, but I think actually I'm going to start from the other way. So I'll press Ctrl and I, and I'll bring in the mask in the opposite way. Instead of trying to mask in the woman, I'm going to try and mask out the leaves between the mobility scooter and her skirt. So zoom in by holding Alt on the keyboard and then scroll. Select B for the brush tool. Select a soft edged brush, size whatever you want, hardness at 0, the opacity and the flow I'm going to have that at 100 for now, but I am going to adjust that down as we go on because I want to try and make a soft transition. So I'm just going to go around this really quickly now and just build it in a little bit by using the black and white. If you need to set black and white as your foreground color, press D on the keyboard and then hit X just to switch between the two. So as mine is white, I want to be painting in black. Okay, now there is one more thing that we can do to it. Obviously we can see that she is in motion. The wind makes it look like she's in motion. Her hair kind of makes it look like she's in motion. She's going quite fast. But the wheels still look like they're stationary. So when you look at the wheels you think, well, obviously this isn't a real picture because you can't be going that fast in your wheels staying still unless she's sliding on black ice. And to me it doesn't look like it's a pretty cold day. So by making a selection of the masked layer, so layer 1, what you want to do is just select the pen tool again, so press I can't even speak today, press P, and then make a selection around the outside of the wheels, and we're going to be adding an individual blur to those in a second. So just crack on as normal, make a selection of the wheels, and then we'll carry on from there, I guess. So now we've got a selection of the outside of the wheels. We want to do the same again. So right click, select make selection, feather radius at 0.2 pixels again, and then just hit OK. So now we've got a selection of the marching ants, but make sure that you've got all three selected. So what you need to do is Control Shift and select, Control Shift select, and select all three. So you've got all three of them together like so. My fault. Right click and then select make selection, feather radius is 0.2 pixels, and then just hit OK. So we've got a selection of all three of the wheels. Now the next thing that we need to do is go over to filter, go to blur, and then this time select radial blur. Now I've got the blur method set to zoom. I think I'll have it set as spin and have the quality at best. Now you don't want to go too mad on this, so I might just try having about 6 or something and then just hit OK. And what you can see that does is it just creates a little bit more motion in the image. So That is how you create motion blur in Adobe Photoshop. Now, using the pen tool, I admit during this episode I was a bit of a pen tool and I didn't want to edit it out and go back. I wanted to show you that, you know, I do struggle sometimes on Photoshop myself. It is a difficult program to use, don't get me wrong. And if you want to learn how to use the pen tool, then just follow my guide. I broke it down really easily, and even someone like me can make mistakes. But we got there in the end, and that's what Photoshop's all about. It's all about learning. So if you want to learn a little bit more with me, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.